think of raising the minimum wage? Well, we hear from business owners, workers, all kinds of folks who all agree that there are solutions to this. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Back to the Thom Hartmann Program. Let's pick up your phone calls here. Michelle in Kansas City, Missouri. Hey, Michelle, what's on your mind?
I want to give a perspective on the minimum wage from an employer's perspective. My husband is an executive chef. Thank God his restaurant is still open. The owners of the restaurant want the minimum wage to be up to $15 an hour because they pay on average $18 an hour for their employees. And another friend of mine owns another restaurant, and he does the same thing. So if the floor is raised, then wages will be raised for everyone, not just. But they were tired of hearing people whine about not being able to make it on $7.25 an hour when they're paying $18 an hour. I mean, they're squeaking by during this pandemic, but they're squeaking by. And they want everybody else's wages to come up so they're not the ones having to do other things. That's all I got to say.
Well, not only
have
that.
a good day. Oh, go ahead.
Not only that, Michelle, if in Kansas City, Missouri, the wages go up to $15 an hour, your husband's restaurant's going to have more customers coming in, able to afford, a monthly meal there.
Exactly. And if you can't take care of your employees, how are you going to take care of anybody else?
There you go.
Thank you, Tom. Have a good
Michelle,
day.
Thank you. You too. Julia in Redding, California. You want to take a contrarian position on this?
I just wanted to point out, I've been hearing arguments, especially from the corporate Democrat side, that raising the minimum wage would reduce the job market. And I said, yeah, I agree. The father that's working 3 jobs to support his family will only have to work 2.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Brilliant. Or the person who's working 2 jobs will only have to work 1. Two $7.25 an hour jobs they can replace, and working 80 hours a week. They can now work 40 hours a week and have time with their kids and their families. Julia, I thought you were going in a completely different direction, but brilliant. Thank you so much for that. It's great to hear from you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, I appreciate listening to you.
Oh, thank you, Julia. Thank you for your kind words. Patrick in East Lansing, Michigan. Patrick, what's up?
Thank you, Tom. This is a great discussion. I had 2 points. I was listening to the One Fair Wage press conference after spending a weekend talking to various groups about this issue, and I learned that any senator can ask to have the parliamentarians' ruling overruled. And I thought that if we lobbied our senators, even ones who support this, we could ask them to do that. And if Vice President Harris overruled the parliamentarian, it'd take 60 votes to overrule her. So,
that's correct.
If they're going to make these arguments, what you're saying today on the show is exactly where we need to go. Because if it fails to have a mandate, to have a minimum wage, Bernie Sanders wants to do what Eric Levitt said in New York Magazine, which is just to put in a tax measure like the Republicans did when they tried to repeal the individual mandate and make businesses that hire people and don't pay the $15 minimum wage become ineligible for tax credits and federal funds. And I would urge anyone to read this New York Magazine article. It's very good on that procedural question.
Yeah.
The other article that's so good on it is Michael Reich at Morning Consult, because he puts a number on how much we are paying. He says raising the $15 minimum wage will save the federal budget $65 billion, and that's because we get $21 billion more in income tax revenues and payroll taxes, but then we save $32 billion on all these programs, food stamps and other programs. So if companies have to pay the price of losing their tax credits, then we can claw back this money that we're giving them. And the only last thing I'll say is the job effects are just not there, the lost jobs. And Dale Bellman did a wonderful book, What Does the Minimum Wage Do? And good summaries of his book are online in articles. He worked at Economic Policy Institute. He surveyed 70 studies. He found statistically insignificant evidence of any job loss, which just straight down the line hammers your point home. And I couldn't agree with you more, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. Patrick, I would add that the two strategies that you described, the strategy of Kamala Harris saying, we're simply going to ignore the parliamentarian, as Republicans have done in the past, and we're going to push this through. That strategy and the Plan B strategy that Bernie has talked about of putting immediately into law a federal law that says any company that doesn't pay $15 an hour isn't eligible for all the goodies you get from the federal government are not mutually exclusive, because this minimum wage, this $15 minimum wage, phases in over 5 years. And Bernie's plan to attack companies, essentially, take away their federal goodies for not paying $15 an hour, could take effect immediately. So you could do both. And thank you very much for bringing it up, Patrick. It's great to hear from you. Paul in Woodinville, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Oh, Tom, this subject is really so close to my heart because your guest just told every old lie in the book, and starting with that the minimum wage is really zero. And as the last caller pointed out, you don't have the job losses because of it, because presumably, as you know, Tom, as an employer, you're not hiring more people than you need, right? You don't have people sitting around not doing anything. That if I had to pay, Joyce and Sean and so more, I'd get rid of you because, or I'd get rid of, Paul, because presumably you wouldn't hire me to sit and do nothing. You're hiring the people that you need.
Correct.
So you're
let me add to that, Paul, if I could, just very briefly. There was a time in America when the minimum wage was zero. And we called those minimum wage workers who earned zero slaves. And,
That's right.
So if the Republicans really want to make that pitch, good luck.
No, that is the pitch that the Confederate Party is making, Tom. They are still the party of slavery. And, you get this, first of all, these are not job creators. They're time wasters. And I call them time wasters. I love Julia, the woman from California, her saying, I might not have to work 3 jobs. I will only have to work 2. What a clever, I just love that. These employers are time wasters. And it goes back to this. If my daily bread costs $1 and I make 99 cents, I still can't buy my daily bread. You wasted my whole damn day. And I still don't get my daily bread. And I sure as hell can't afford to pay taxes. So by low wages, this is how they convince the Trump, the people who don't make it, that the taxes should be low because, look, you're making so little, you couldn't afford to pay any taxes. So they put the person in the same mind frame as the rich who say, I don't want to pay any taxes. And so it really is just a big lie. But you know what? Here's the foil they always use. And a local talk show host here in Seattle, and the one down who talks down near you, I won't mention his name, says, well, why wouldn't it 15? Why not 30 or 45 or $50 an hour if that's so great for society? Stupid. And I'm asked the question, okay, well, let's take it your way. If you don't want to double it or triple it, if that's not good, how about we cut it in half? Why don't we make it $3.50 or $2.40 or $1.80 an hour? Wouldn't that be better for society? Couldn't employers hire more people, which they wouldn't because they don't need them? But you know what they say? If that's what they're willing to work for, and Tom, that is exactly the wording that was in Lochner. That if 2 people want to agree to have you work for 2 cents an hour, that you should be able to do that. In fact, in Lochner, the argument was that a baker should have to, a baker should have to work in the basement of a building where the ceiling is only 4.5 feet tall in temperatures of baking ovens and work there 20 hours a day. And the state of New York had no right to say anything about the contract between that employer and the baker, that you should be able to tell them to do anything you want. And here's another thing, Tom, I'm on my rant here. If they find that an employer has more than 40 work hours per person and they're splitting it up to part-time help, I think you should have to pay $17.25 an hour, because where else can you buy things for less? Whenever you buy it in lesser amounts, you end up paying more, right? When you buy the economy size, you get it for less. But if you buy things in a small package, except when it comes to buying help, when it comes to buying labor, they can do it, and they cut your hours. If you're only hiring, if you could hire for 40 hours a week and you're only giving somebody 25 or 20 hours a week, I think you should have to pay $17.25 an hour. 15% more, just like you do when you buy a small amount of a product. See, they never like to obey the economic rules that they put down or the laws they say they don't want to buy it for. And here's the other thing about restaurants. The price of food has gone up 10 times since 1968. It's 10 times more, at least 10 times more. And I remember looking up the price of ground beef in 1968 was 39 cents a pound, and you can't touch it for $3.90. Now you can't touch it for practically under $6 a pound. And so you ever hear restaurants complaining about, oh, we just couldn't pay the price of food, right? When the price of food goes up, they say we have to just raise our rates. But when it comes to labor, they don't feel that way.